Hello, and welcome to Elevao's Tech Talk for June 2021. My name is Nicole Price, and I'm the Director of Product Commercialization and Strategy here at Elevao. I'll be your host for today, and we'll be discussing why pause and resume is critical to any contact center space, but in this case, specifically healthcare. We'll also discuss how Elevao uniquely integrates with Epic Healthcare, the patient record management of choice in the United States. Joining me today is Barry Williams, Vice President of Marketing and Product at Elevao. With over 20 years of experience in software delivery, Barry's experience is particularly relevant to our conversation, having spent quite some time at Availity, one of the largest provider gateway organizations in the United States. With that, I'll turn the time over to Barry.
Thank you, Nicole. So I wanted to just go ahead and start with why are we having this conversation? Why are we talking about this? What's relevant about this? Why does APR matter? So let's get into the why. In 2020, globally, the average cost of a data breach was $3.86 million, and the average time to contain the breach was about 280 days. If you take that into the healthcare space, which is what we're talking about today, the average cost of a data breach in the US was $8.64 million. And globally, that was about 7.3. So clearly, this is a big financial issue, assuming that you have a breach or that you don't have proper compliance measures in place. The real problem here is data breaches are actually going up. According to a report from Verizon, data breaches in healthcare specifically increased by 58% this year. Clearly, healthcare organizations are being targeted for theft. This isn't surprising considering a lot of healthcare organizations have been slow to adopt newer technologies and because they hold so much sensitive data. In my previous role, as Nicole mentioned at Availity, I had direct access to several million patient master data records. And with that level of centralization and that level of sensitivity in data, it just naturally comes with a certain amount of risk. When we start talking about payments, and especially inside healthcare or financial organizations that are doing PCI data, so credit card payments, only about 27.9% of organizations globally were able to maintain full compliance, according to a Verizon report. And this is a problem because if you don't appropriately maintain data security standards, it leaves you open for breach. What's more concerning is this is the third successive year that a decline in compliance has occurred, with a 27.5% point drop since compliance peaked in 2016. So the problem is actually getting worse, not better, and there seems to have been a lack of focus over the last few years on maintaining compliance. So now we know what the problem is. What do we do to prevent breaches and loss of revenue? Well, there's multiple options, multiple solutions for that, so let's get into it. One of the things you can do is compliance recording and quality management. Those things ensure that standards of behavior are being met by people who are talking to external parties for your organization, right? So if you have a contact center, you have a back office team, you have people taking payment information, having compliance recording and quality management ensures that they are identifying properly, that they're authorizing properly, that they're processing payments in the proper way, and then any compliance script steps are met. A lot of organizations have a need to provide a legal statement as part of the process or part of the interaction that they're having. And quality management helps you ensure that those things are happening on a regular basis. Every communication about or with a patient or customer should be recorded for compliance. And we'll get into a little bit more about that in a minute. The other thing you can do is recording agent screens. So if you have people in your organization taking information from patients or external customers, recording their screens can help identify theft and provide legal evidence for prosecution. We had a customer of ours who had an internal employee skimming credit card data from customers who stole over $800,000 in basically they bought merchandise with it. The supervisor was performing quality management and heard some odd behavior, some odd pausing, and saw some odd things on the screen recording, and then used that as to go find more detail. And actually the recorded screen showed that the agent was taking PCI data, taking credit card data and putting in a notepad on their work machine. And that's how they were stealing data. And so recording both the voice and the screens provided a situation where that could be identified and then stopped. And then of course it was used for legal action. So one of the ways that you can prevent this is just not storing the credit card data. So recording avoidance is best practice in this case. Credit card data that's not captured or stored in your systems can't be stolen via an external breach where someone has malware and gets into your systems, or by internal theft. And there are several solutions in the market for preventing PCI data from being obtained. Some solutions prevent storage by sort of interrupting the call and pushing it off to somewhere else. Others do what is called pause and resume, right? So they are triggered and they stop recording at a specific time. Obviously, identifying the best solution for your organization depends on your risk tolerance, internal security and compliance policies, and of course, budget. Let's talk about APR for a minute. So auto pause and resume is a pretty common way to stop the recording from capturing the credit card data. So let's assume that you're taking payment information and someone is giving the credit card number over the phone. Typically what happens is there's a mapping of the software that the agent is using to process the payment, and there's a trigger, either a URL or an application being opened or a button that triggers the recording to stop, right? So that's why it's auto pause. There's also a trigger to resume. Well, that works great until the URL changes or that system is modified or the button moves, which in today's world happens much, much faster than it used to, right? Everything's going cloud and updates are being made on a pretty consistent basis, even to things like the user experience. So some of those integrations can be fragile, which is why companies like Salesforce, Epic, Amazon, and others have created a sort of a certified partner capacity where they control their feature and they make they vet the vendors that work with them. And that's what we've done with Epic and their App Orchard. So essentially what happens with APR with Epic is you can go into their App Orchard and they'll actually make an API call to you to tell you to stop recording. And they'll make another API call to you to start recording again. The benefit of this is if they change the screen that's where the agent is putting in the PCI data, we don't need to necessarily know about that. It doesn't break the integration. It doesn't stop and actually record things that you shouldn't. The danger in the old APR style is if things do change and somebody doesn't notice, you could record PCI data and not know it. So having an integration like this that's vetted, where there's a change management process and we continue to stay certified, helps prevent that. So that kind of leads me into things to consider when you're talking about recording an APR. Some things to consider for recording vendors. Your compliance WFO vendor should provide options for premise, hybrid, or cloud-hosted solutions, and meets the compliance needs of your organization, right? So you have security needs, you have compliance needs, you have things like APR that you need, you have PCI DSS compliance, you may be dealing with the California Protection Act, or if you're global, maybe GDPR. You need to pick a vendor that meets all those things, but in addition to that, you don't want to necessarily pick a vendor who's going to force you to go cloud before you're ready. And you also don't want to pick one who's going to penalize you when you want to move later. There shouldn't be a financial penalty for adding licenses or, like I said, for migrating to cloud. Now, obviously, there will be some cost to migrate, right? But there shouldn't be an additional fee just because you picked prem for some time or hybrid or cloud. And then software contracts for those vendors should be flexible with discounts for paying upfront, subscription monthly or annually or longer term. So again, there's a lot more to consider here for these vendors than just do they have the features that I need right now. So now that we know what the problem is, we know that there's these breaches, and we understand that recording, quality management, and auto pause and resume are a good way to prevent breach. How do we move forward? Well, if you don't have a current WFO vendor, and you don't have these features today, we would like you to consider Eleveo. So I'm going to talk a little bit about us and our solutions and how we sort of solve some of these problems. Just really quickly about Eleveo. We're a 20-year plus WFO provider, 8 times in the Magic Quadrant for Gartner. We have 5-star ratings with our partner network. We have specialized solutions for high compliance. We started as a compliance recording company, recording for Cisco. We have a heavy industry presence in healthcare and in finance, in education and utilities, all are which are heavy compliance organizations. Actually, give you a mix of the. These are some of the example healthcare providers: HCA, which everybody knows, Memorial Healthcare, CHOP, Advent Health, and Availity, where I used to work. Just some of the examples. As far as our solutions, you can see that we're heavy compliance in the middle. That's again how we started. We record calls, we record API, omni-channel transactions, live monitoring, video recording. We can capture screens, and we have specific features for things like GDPR, CCPA, PCI DSS, and MiFID. And the reason we have all those things is, again, we started as a compliance company. It's about protecting the data. It's about preventing breaches. More recently, we've moved into more workforce engagement management at the top. So you have voice of the employee for measuring how employees are feeling, performance analytics, quality management, which I mentioned earlier as a way to maintain scripts and compliance, workforce management, which is scheduling, and e-learning. We also have solutions for voice of the customer down at the bottom for customer experience and speech analytics. And I want to talk about that just a little bit because in addition to the compliance needs that most healthcare organizations have, there's also a need for patient engagement. And that seems to be a hot topic in healthcare right now. So patient experience matters. Surveys to patients calling in combined with speech analytics can give you a full picture of the sentiment of your customers. It will help you understand how they feel about your organization and find any potential issues with how you're servicing them. Today, patients have more options than they ever had before, and they share information publicly on social media and review platforms. So brand reputations is becoming more and more critical, especially in the healthcare space where competition is growing. And automated surveys can help replace the need for some paper-based regulatory data collection, which may provide some operational cost savings. Today, a lot of healthcare organizations use a third-party survey tool like a SurveyMonkey or some other survey service. And that has some value and it meets the basic needs, but it kind of leaves a gap in some of the value part of the data, which I want to talk about briefly. So let's talk about insights from patient experience. Being able to tie the actual survey or the returned information about how the customer feels to the original interaction sounds easy. It sounds like a no-brainer, but most survey solutions don't allow for that level of integration. So again, if you're just creating a list and sending out a survey to a bunch of patients, you do get back data related to them that you can sort of view trends around and view directional insights from, but it doesn't tell you that you have a problem with how you process payments. It doesn't tell you that you have a problem with how you schedule. It doesn't tell you that you have a problem when someone checks in or out of the hospital. And if you have interactions tied to those, you have calls or chats or emails tied to those, and the survey is triggered from those, you can actually go look at the moment in time that you touch that patient or customer and see what's wrong and hopefully adjust it and improve. Only when the recording software triggers the survey can you get that level of data. If it's a third-party tool, if it's not integrated to the calling system or the way the interaction came in, if it's omni-channel, it's impossible to tie that down to that base level and you lose some of the value. So in summary, healthcare and other high compliance organizations should focus on compliance recording with APR and other relevant protection features, perform regular quality management, record screens when possible, and use their WFO tool to integrate patient engagement surveys. And we found that a lot of our WFO customers are not necessarily utilizing all of those pieces together to maximize value, right? So the compliance features, also the prevention features for PCI, quality management to ensure both quality and to improve engagement, and then all the protection features that come along with our WFO tool, as well as survey and emotion detection. So with that, I'd like to open up for any questions.
Well, while we're waiting for some of the questions to come in, I have a couple of questions to expand on the concepts that you shared with us today, Barry. So first, we talked about Elevao's Epic integration. Can Elevao support pause and resume from other tools in case that's a need for one of our customers?
We can. We have a desktop solution that can be mapped to specific applications, to specific URLs, or to a field or a button trigger. It is very easy to configure. It's very lightweight on the desktop. And so if Epic is not your solution, we still do have APR capabilities, and it's fairly easy to integrate. Obviously, it doesn't have the robustness of the source system telling you when to pause, but they do work really well and go a long way in helping prevent PCI breaches.
That's great. Another question about Epic. So in this day and age, we hear a lot about cloud functionality, and this leaves out a lot of our customers that are still, for whatever reason, still on premise. Can you share a little bit more about how Elevao's cloud strategy pertains to our Epic integration?
Certainly. So we're based on a native cloud platform, which is a technical way of saying that we have an agnostic platform as far as where you host it. So the goal that we have is we don't want to differentiate between an on-premise, a hybrid, or an in-cloud installation. And the way we do that is one architecture that everything resides on. There's two benefits to the customer for that. One, you get cloud level technology and robustness and security even on-prem. And two, if you want to migrate, whether you are not ready for cloud and you want to stay prem today, or you're moving slowly and you have some pieces that are in both, or you want to go fully cloud today and later you decide I want to take it on premise, you have all of those options without having to change the software. The software itself stays the same. All we do is just move you from one place to the other without having to do a re-implementation. A lot of vendors in our space, and frankly, a lot of vendors in the world that started as prem offers, basically started from scratch and built a new cloud platform, and they're two completely different sets of software. And in our case, that's not how we've approached it. We've taken the prem software and revamped it to be cloud friendly, and so it's a unique point, and that applies to the Epic integration, whether you're premise or cloud. Our software doesn't really care.
Okay. Of course, pause and resume is just one way of protecting the patient experience. You mentioned a few other things like quality management and, of course, conversation analytics, which are some of the most critical pieces of understanding the patient experience. So I wanted to share for the larger audience, if you weren't already aware, we recently published a white paper that examines the primary measurement system for the patient experience, which is more commonly known as CAPS, CAHPS. It's not integrated with patient records. It's extremely manual survey process. It has a declining response rate. It's 50 questions on paper that you get through the mail. However, this defines government funding. So tying patient record management data to interactions, survey verbatims, as you were just mentioning, conversation analytics, and really any other metadata piece that we can think of, tying that to the actual interaction itself, it really opens up any organization's perspective on both the customer and the patient experience. So if anybody wants to read more about our findings, feel free to reach out to your sales director or find us on LinkedIn where we've posted that white paper. We'll be more than happy to share that with you. So before we end today, are there any takers for questions in the chat room? Didn't look like there were, but we'll give one last call. And while we're doing that, I'd like to thank all of our attendees today and look forward to seeing you at our July Tech Talk, where we'll talk about our top integrations with Eleveo. Thank you for coming today.
Eleveo. Elevate every encounter.